It's Shirley with Spirit of Matter. And this is actually a Saturn hour still, not Jupiter hour yet. And we have ascendant 20 degrees Aquarius approaching, slowly approaching Deneb Algedi. So I'm going to call on Deneb Algedi, and I think it is appropriate, okay, since Saturn hour now that Saturn is retrograding Pisces, co-present with Neptune, Jupiter and Gemini, midheaven ruled by this Jupiter, okay, 4 degrees Sagittarius, that's also calling for Antares. And the moon is just released from a conjunction with Mars that's been on a very Uranian degree, and Mars is a planet also of separation, okay, both of initiation but also separation, and is ruled by the moon that just conjuncted it in Cancer. We're going to call on Sirius. You must be wondering, Shirley, what is the connection between the title of this episode, which is the rumors about Beyonce divorcing Jay-Z, and Algol and Uranus conjunction, and the image. I think it is fairly obvious, okay, but this episode is not about Beyonce or Jay-Z, but about something larger that is happening as a result of Uranus conjoining Beta Persei. And you see the lot of fortune, an erratic degree Scorpio, releasing from opposition to this Uranus on Algol. And basically, Algol rules a lot of things. It rules wealth, it rules challenging events, it rules facial injuries, it rules speaking up for oneself. People like Jago Wright, who I think even has soul on Algol, and has been through a lot of trials and tribulations, but now is seeing truth, especially with Uranus coming to release all that and release the truth and be supported and being seen and believed. So the music industry is also a Venus thing, okay? And right now with Venus in Scorpio, we're getting into the depth of, okay, the transformative, the scorpionic, the hidden facets of influencers, music industry, and a lot more things. And Uranus Beta Persei is not exempt from that. So Uranus rules liberation, rebellion, something unusual, technology, programming, okay? Uranus rules the MK Ultra as much as it rules the unleash from the MK Ultra. Because it's programming, it's the nervous system, the mass communication, the sky god, okay? It rules Eurekas, it rules scientific revelations, it rules revolutions, as we said, big technology, and it also rules astrology and divorce or unusual relations. So Uranus is a strong stamp. Anytime it is in Venus sign, it revolutionizes the relation between men and women. Last time it was in this point on Algol, in Venus sign was the Second World War, but it's also changed the relationship between men and women. 2 generations of men died in the war. Women just had to pick up, okay, they had to do something for a living, and they later began to have right to vote, their own bank account, and it completely changed on a very material, okay, very basic and practical way, even without anybody desiring it necessarily, even if nobody desired it, that is to say, it changed the relations between men and women. Okay, and Adolf Hitler, that was kind of one of the leaders of the war, had Uranus in another Venus sign, which is Libra, and this also has to do with relations and balancing the relation, the give and take. So yes, and this is not me idealizing the war. Yes, it was very horrid and very terrible. But we cannot also ignore the other things that Uranus brings. And now we're in the midst of it. Basically, what's going on is that we had the case for Puff Daddy, Sean Combs, being litigated for human trafficking, grooming, all the geschäft. is basically something that he had to do. It's kind of like an Epstein. So this is a part of the hidden role of the entertainment industry, which is influencing our unconsciousness. Okay, it's the songs that we listen to where we are in grief, where we are unhappy, where we are happy, unhappy. It's the messages, the hidden, the encoded, and unfortunately, the way that these things works is by torture. Okay, and this is something that would make you have faith in humanity, because it takes a lot of torture to make people do bad things to people, and a lot of insight, a lot of leeching onto the person, trying to learn about them, trying to this, trying to that. It really takes a lot. So this is not to say that people don't have natural inclinations or this or that. It's not to outrule human nature. I'm not here to tell you who you are. But it definitely means that we have a tremendous point of interference when it comes to our own human nature. So what the way thing is not for Puff Daddy to be accused only, but for him to begin to sing, okay, to talk about Jay-Z. And Jay-Z had even higher position, higher rank, and he would also do psychological programming, and that is connected very much to what we know as MK Ultra Monarch Project, that you might want to look up. Or here's testimonials of survivors in the Imagination podcast, or Your Imagination is Real. I think that's her channel name on Instagram. And so whoever you are, whether you're in any industry or this industry or outside, that can be very, very useful to make it accessible for you to even have choice. Okay, and in that regard, when we go back, and the milk carton, I actually took a screen capture that Emma posted from the Imagination podcast, and it refers to the Monarch Project, the advertisement that used actors, famous actresses, youth with a distinct semen-looking marking on their mouths, and it became even more blunt with the boys, actually. And so that was very much in our faces. And mind you, the milk cartons, okay, for what they were selling, this is also how you would locate the missing people. And that makes anybody who tends to cold cases, to missing people, the entire true crime industry, very, very intricate, to tend to, you know that I did water expands upon cooling, and the end of episode 1, what happened? It was intuited to make the 2 symbol or P symbol, or whatever you call it, it's a 2 gender symbol. I didn't know what it means until I watched Trudy Verstegen, and this is a Mama versus Mafia on YouTube, that makes it very accessible to people, okay? And if you want more content in English, you can ask her and you can comment, and you can boost up the algorithm for this channel, contact her to make donations. She's basically trying to save children outside of the welfare that kidnaps them. So it's something that is really unforeseen. I know Ronald Bernard is trying to raise funds to that. I haven't looked deeply into that. I think Housing First is a must when we talk about this, and I'm just waiting for him to correspond to upload stuff. But Rudy definitely does something that I haven't seen before, okay? And if you are in Netherlands, or if you needed help, then you can also turn to her, especially if you're one of the families of the 1100, okay? For COVID that were kidnapped by the taxes, then I would turn to Trudy before I would turn to anything triangular, okay? We don't want the triangulation. So that's also, rather than blaming Mark, just do something, donate money to Trudy. Is my opinion, you don't have to agree. So in that respect, of course, when we discuss the possibility that Beyonce might be divorcing Jay-Z, and we hear it every now and then. The discussion of them divorcing is something that we've been. I said, people wanted Beyonce to divorce Jay-Z more than they wanted Mulder and Scully to get together. And that is a thing. Then there are voices saying, well, Beyonce is also have allegations against her, including sacrifice of human lives, attempts to do rituals of destiny swapping, and so on and so forth. And yes, I'm not here to be the judge, but definitely I find connection between Uranus going back to conjoining Beta Persei and this divorce, because what is at the heart of this divorce is Beyonce divorcing Jay-Z because he's accused of human trafficking, Epstein-like rings, MK Ultra involvement. I believe the word MK Ultra is going to pop very soon. Okay, I believe Jag is just building the stage, and she's trying to recruit. I don't know what's Trump. Where is Trump around that? But I would not be surprised to see Trump singing, and rightfully so. Okay, like that would be very encouraging. I don't know what the life risk. Okay, that only he knows. But I think it's important to speak. And he, as an eclipse child, is one of the people who perhaps can speak. Yes, he was involved, of course. Everybody there was, but if we want to change something and not to throw America into the situation where it's now at, then that would be necessary to speak. We have here a question of a couple that may or may not be separating on the background of everything Beta Persei. Mind control, psychic attack, witchcraft, and I don't mean witchcraft like, a fairy wood thingy. I mean the type of thing that is done malefically, that is done intentional to, like the hermaphrodite cults, the true dimensions, to interfere in the life energy malefically on purpose. Okay, and unless it's self-defense, it's usually not something that one does. And even if it's self-defense, usually you do a back to sender or you do death magic. But if you do death magic, it's to decrease the suffering. Because if they send something like torture or rape or something like that, you want to decrease the suffering. You want to send death, immediate, no suffering, so they can process it, buffer. Okay, when they have the buffer of love. That's only time where I would consider death magic. Avoid at all costs doing something that's specific to the person, because there are a lot of shapeshifters. So you send known and unknown. That's the thing. When you send it back to sender, but if it's like 7th October and people send horrible stuff, it's like it's safer for them to die. It's more humane to practice for them to die rather than for them to get back what they sent, especially if they send something to the family, to the generation, to the surroundings. So that is also something that is changing. Okay, Uranus Beta Persei is kind of dredging up all these knowledges, all these various circumstances where normally you would like, yeah, of course you don't do that magic, and then you're like, well, what if somebody sends the entire city threats of torture and rape and whatnot and this and psychically attacks them? Well, you don't want to send it back because it's intergenerational. Of course, you need to better practice death magic. Okay, so return the energy to sender, but it's death magic, so they die, they don't suffer, because there was a lot of torture to put them in the situation. If you can't but take them out of this situation because you need to protect your life at this point, it's better and more humane to practice that. Yes, I'm not in favor of sending like generational courses back to sender. Okay, I think that should be. It sounds reasonable, but with what people do, I do nothing. I don't assume knowledge anymore or reason. So that type of divorce, it could be happening when alcohol will go direct on Beta Persei. We understand that if all of our industry is type of mind control, okay, we call it MK Ultra, Monarch, this or that, paperclip, whatever, then you understand that it's not just about the divorce in a GZ, which could be life-threatening to Beyonce, but learning how to protect herself and get out of the cold. Now, I don't know what she had to do, okay, how many children, okay, involved in what she had to do, and to stay alive in this case, okay. So people say it's for money, it's for fame, but mostly it's for to stay alive, because it's not like she could say, okay, I can just work as a cashier and okay, save some money, travel the world, and sing every now and then. Because some people that have the choice, they choose it. Okay, this you have to be also realistic about that. Some people that say, oh, I can travel the world on a budget, they try to, and then maybe some of them become world leading politicians. Okay, so also the bar of saying this person politician, this person is influencer, this person is a singer, this person is actor, the bar is very thin, and okay, if you're recruited, you're recruited. That's something that's also important. This is why I bring up Imagination Podcast, Anneke Lucas, all these people that are survivors of satanic ritual abuse that can assist in making it accessible to exit, the right to exit violence, and practice it to whichever place you can be. Now let's go to birth charts. So this is birth chart of Beyonce Knowles, or Beyonce Carter right now, and if I try to see, okay, what's on our goal? Well, the closest is Chiron on the 22nd degree of Taurus retrograde. Beyonce is not 50 yet. I have to say this Chiron is a wound around assassination, and unfortunately her ascendant ruled by Venus. So this could be a situation where she had to protect her life in some way, or perhaps to try to, in order to stay alive, to sacrifice other people's lives. Okay, especially by the age 50, where Chiron returns, because the wound is around assassination in the 8th house. This could be at her birth. It can be the case that even for her to be born, there was a question of to kill and be killed involved with that. Maybe her parents had to save her from being murdered or being expendable child. And we don't hear all the story, we don't know all the story, and Chiron returns at 50. She's in her 40s right now. She was born in 1981 until 1931, when she will be 50. There is some time, but it's also possible that whenever was a transit to Chiron, okay, when Uranus transited Chiron, Beyonce got a lot of the allegations, a lot of the witchcraft allegations against her. And this 8th house. So Uranus is going to go back all the way to the 23rd degree, not 22nd, but it's going to conjunct this Chiron again for Beyonce. And 8th house is also the house of after marriage. This tells me that to be married actually risk her life. Okay. Another point of 22 degrees, her Venus in general conjuncts Pluto on 22 degree of Libra. So her Pluto square, she's already past her Pluto square, and it's likely she had to sacrifice lives in order to survive her Pluto square, because it's to kill or be killed. Yes, ascendant anaretic degree of Cancer, she would have premonition with that. Midheaven with Rahu and Mars, she would have premonitions of that. Something fated about her career. So unfortunately, the human lives that she had to sacrifice, unfortunately, they are fated as well. Okay, because the action Mars could have been this way. Sun that's ruling Mars is actually an 11th degree Uranian degree. And yes, I'm not going to elaborate into that because this is intimate, this is private, it's not a part of what was publicly alleged against her. And this is not an allegation, okay? This is something internal that I reserve the respect of and the dignity to not discuss. This is in case ascendant is indeed Libra. Her Uranus conjuncts the moon and she's having Uranus opposition. Uranus on Algol is Beyonce's Uranus opposition. And this tells me very directly that this could be the time where she finally manages either to separate from GZ, and it's smart for her to wait until Uranus opposition, because any other time she could be murdered. Which is also opposing her moon. Okay, so it's possible that from Beyonce's point of view, she will manage to divorce GZ in this situation. Okay, her Chiron is 22, her Neptune in Sagittarius is also 22, and lot of fortune 29 Sagittarius. This is ruled by Jupiter in the first house. So anything that we have an eclipse. Okay, if we have an eclipse in Libra with Ketu in Libra, Ketu is conjuncting this Jupiter that rules over this Neptune in 22nd degree of Sagittarius in the third house. It's very likely that in such events, it's not first time it happens. Okay, eclipse in Libra. Jupiter in her life can be husband, can be children, can be also enemies. Rules over Pisces and rules over Sagittarius, so the third and the sixth house, according to the Libra ascendant. Some people say Scorpio ascendant, that would be then second and yes, that would be the second and the fifth house, which will still denote us to children. And so for Beyonce, we know that she works with astrology. There can be attempt of her to do sun rituals, okay, eclipse rituals that usually backfire and are very malefic, kind of like a black sun ritual. So attempts to sacrifice and so on and so forth. With Beta Persei, I cannot refrain more from recommending that. But I also understand why. Okay, for why would she try to do such thing? If she would try to do such thing, I'm not saying or alleging that she will do it. It's sometimes maybe even some people might do it for her because they want to preserve her or they want to expand of her. So the Neptune 22 can be, if we will hear that Beyonce suddenly has COVID or lung issues, we know that she was targeted. It's murder. So as for divorce, is she divorcing GZ? With this Uranus Beta Persei, it's maybe that by the time Uranus is direct on Beta Persei, is going to be. And her moon is with Uranus. Moon is ruling her Rahu. So and the Uranus opposition triggers basically her North Node. She could be making money out of leadership. She could be making money out of being a mom, actually. And all things Cancer, even astrology, by the way. I think this is giving that type of procedure. Now, for the question of what to do when a person has such degrees, okay, for not to sacrifice other humans and so on. For blood rituals, you grow hibiscus is usually suffice. Charity has more power than human sacrifice, okay? Charity, she didn't grow up into that because it's all MK Ultra, it's all under control. Never had access to make these decisions. It's important for us to understand. For such cases, charity to people in risk of being murdered. For example, a charity to people in risk of being murdered by pandemic, okay, by the WHO would be very appropriate. Chiron 22, charity to people in risk of being murdered because they speak up, which is actually by a lot of spirit. Would be appropriate. Okay, it's in the third house, so I don't expect her to spend money on me. But charity is way more effective than the act of killing. Okay, again, if it is return to sender, sometimes you have to do return to sender, and still, and you conjoin it with a charity. Okay, you conjoin it with a charity. The charity can sometimes even make obsolete the need to be killing, or the need to do any further actions, because you actually tend to the issue. Okay, you surface, you make it surface. Okay, just like I tend to expendable children, um, because I understand that there's going to be nuclear war and humanity is going extinct, and rather than okay, being in the force where I feel helpless, it feels like, oh, let's end it all. Rather than being that force, I raise awareness to a point of interference where we can assist children to be saved. And Beyonce herself is very likely survivor of such expandable children. It can be she doesn't even know it because they have the program person to not remember. Okay, in which case I know she tends to watch a lot of things about her. My deep recommendation is, yes, charities around the 22. Okay, charities of people in risk of assassination, whistleblowers, even in music industry. Okay, even Jaguar Wright, she said to Puff Daddy, she said, for this person, how he would take accountability, he would take accountability if he took accountability for all he did, and opened funding that the money goes to the victims, to the children. For Beyonce, okay, she's not even in position of Puff Daddy. Is to do such thing, first of all, if the credentials given by the woman who exposed Jaguar Wright, it's given a lot of spiritual blessings. So if a person chooses to do that, it makes it accessible for a person to do that. And for Beyonce to do that is even more accessible. Okay, in that position. So such charity for people who are survivors of expandable children, to abolish expandable children. Now, I'm sure that it's not something that goes against her will. Okay, I'm sure it's something that she herself survivor, something very likely speaks to the soul. How to make this accessible, turn into better persei, might be overwhelming. So I'm not saying no, but be yes to work with that. Speaker, very appropriate. A good talisman for speaker, and I would actually, yes, I think an active talisman of speaker we have is Helwas Astro, that recently created something with a wonderful election. I did one, but the election not so wonderful, so I wouldn't recommend on this yet. Maybe yes, but I don't know. It's too early to say. So definitely speaker, definitely better persei, the Venusian fixed stars, and better persei set of stars. Those would be appropriate. Definitely be acquainted with charity, as and charity even in speaking up, even intending to, and receiving the eurekas. Uranus is great about this. Definitely, if a person think, oh, I did so much, I sacrificed, or even I killed so much, nobody will ever support me, crossing over to the light side. You are wrong. And people like Ronald Bernard, okay, managed to exit. I know he didn't, sacrifice children in that way, direct way, but also human trafficking and stuff like that. It's sacrifice of children, okay, that the act you had to do resulted in that, and still redeemed. And it's not about God or Christ or anything like that. It's just every set of beliefs have a set of action that is on the line of tending to this issue, so that will not sacrifice children, so that what Beyonce had to go through when she was child, and as adult, would not be the standard in the industry. And it's possible, and it's even welcomed. Okay, even people like Jaguar Wright, they expose everybody, but she points to what the place of, some people call it redemption, some people just call it like, okay, to correct this is possible. okay? And this is important, yes, to understand. I'm not claiming to know all the intricacies. I'm just trying to make a more access to choice in this situation. So those things are all very much advisable. Definitely not black sun rituals. Definitely not anything of human. Definitely not stuff like destiny swapping and stuff like that. This is it backfired tremendously, and with Beyonce, the planets on the 22 is Chiron, the H50. Okay, Pluto, she already had square Pluto. Neptune already had the square to Neptune. That being said, the square to Neptune is not over until Neptune finishes with Pisces, and the square to Pluto is not over until Pluto finishes with Capricorn. So this is a part of what is happening right now. Okay, if there were things, or maybe in the beginning of the practice of witchcraft, which happens to many people, it's just that she's in a different situation in life, that situation, and the choices, the access to choice in such situations, not so big. Okay, so if people think a person lives lavish life, okay, psychic attack is a real thing, and person having to contend with that and set the boundaries with that is a reality that you don't see behind the fancy clothes and fancy products and wonderful music and big mansions and so on and so forth. Okay, if you think this person living lavish, is not always true. And that is something that we should also take into account when you observe that with the show that they put on for us to observe, not talking the celebrities, but those that use these celebrities and give them stage only if they comply with so and so. And sometimes the complying is done by torture. So the person has several personalities, and the personality is not always aware, which is also important. There are ways to bring for the personalities and so on. I would highly recommend anything that has to do with self-care over anything that depends on external figure, because you know where the junctures of healings is, okay? So, and this is exactly the other charity that I would recommend Beyonce to do, okay? Anything that counters WHO, because WHO has Neptune 22 degree as well, and anything for survivors of WHO, whether it's the doctors that are the whistleblowers, whether it's the people, or it's colleagues, okay, for family or whatever that she can do, allocate resources, stuff like that. That would be a highly appropriate platforms, social platforms that where people not silenced when they speak, okay? And she should not be afraid if even people expose, say Beyonce did this, Beyonce did that, but take accountability and open this crowd funding and to discuss and to protect the voice. But please listen to survivors first, so that you can protect your voice, protect yourself, okay? It's not human. It's not you sacrifice other human, but also not to sacrifice the self, and to learn how to do this, okay, progressively. It's possible that she's already on that road. Okay, she's always moving in the silence, so we don't know. By the way, third house also sisters. So the fear has also around the siblings. So the fear of Beyonce is also around the siblings, not necessarily God forbid to be burned by them, which could be. We know Solange is defending her at all costs, but fear that the siblings would be murdered. And this is very likely why she didn't divorce Jay-Z so far. It's not even to do with Jay-Z necessarily, but with what Jay-Z is programmed to do, okay? And yes, but for done that, you want to listen to Jaguar Wright and understand that she knows, she's been there. Okay, she was hurt by this man. I believe her, not just because she has evidence, which she does, but because yes, it's a person she collaborated, is a person that she worked with and would continue to work with if not for these things. Okay, so and so that is yes, intricate situation from Beyonce's perspective. All things I think are done to separate and stay alive, which is the story that every person that wants divorce, man or woman, okay, sometimes fears, because for our economy and for these cults that operate by division. Now let's take a look at the chart of Jay-Z. And this is, yes, also C-rated, not the best, not the best, most accurate data that we have, but it's Uranus time. So let's see, Jay-Z indeed has Moon Uranus as well in Libra, another Venus sign. So in Beyonce's first house. If he is indeed ascendant Virgo, if he's in that, first of all, he would bring Ketu to her sun. And I said, what did I say? Ketu Relatis yesterday. You want to watch my Ketu Relatis episode? Ketu relationships. Okay. So he brings Ketu to her sun. This is an eclipse that has to do with the relationships that have conjoining of Ketu and Sun. Now, it can be case of here, and he brings it with his ascendant to her 12th house. So this, while it can be bedroom partner, it unfortunately can be hidden enemy, even by the merit of him feeling unseen by her. Although she has Sun in the 12th house, he could be feeling like he is trying to reach her, but she's not there. Although she felt this way to him as well. Because his ascendant is at the place where his hidden place. Okay? So even if it was not a question of like human trafficking and MK Ultra and stuff like that this is given a challenging relationship, because for Beyonce it's difficult to see who Jay-Z actually is, what his motives are. And it's very fated for him. She meets Ketu, Sun with Ketu is genuinely very fated. Okay, this person genuinely has been with her in past life. Okay, and they've been together in past life. Maybe even one was parent of the other. But definitely there was, yes, this relation. And so anything to do with past life karma, contract release, and forgiveness and stuff like that would be appropriate. I don't know how much access he has to even make that choice. But it's absolutely, this eclipse is on his Uranus, not too far from his moon as well. Okay, not Ketu on his moon, Sun, Moon, Lilith on his Uranus, in second house. Yes, it's second house. So this means where's Venus for him? In the fourth house. So something dissolves around his housing, the family that he has. Okay, that he owns the family. Unfortunately, here he kind of owns Beyonce. Okay, it's a relationship where the setting, I'm not saying it cannot be overcome, but the setting is, he profits off of Beyonce a lot. Not that he cannot make money alone, but it is such. And so he's letting go, Ketu, of this type of profit and more into 8th house, but 8th house, where his Mars is, would be 5th house. So he would try to make money off of his children, of Blue Ivy and so on. But arguments can also be around separation, okay, about custody and stuff like that. If he's now people ask, well, is Jay-Z going to jail? Well, I have to admit, I don't see anything like that in particular here. Not with this ascendant, not with this setting of housing. Charges, I think it's more like a possibility of losing the Beyonce as an asset and trying to capitalize or to fight over custody of the children. If that would be the case, okay. Yes, so yes, Saturn in Taurus in the 9th house, opposing Jupiter. So there's certain sort of separation that can happen around the children, that he also profit from Jupiter's children, and also real estate. It could be profiting off of real estate. Sun 11th in Sag, Well, Sag is not highly involved with this eclipse. He does have Spica conjuncting to Jupiter, so I would advise him to go to this Spica. And yet, remember what Jaguarite said, okay? But that cannot be done with a psychological manipulation. Like a person really have to. They would be stripped out of their psychological manipulation to say that is preferred if they consensually prepare for such consent to that. Otherwise, it will happen anyway. So this is very, very important. So yes, possibility of divorce and series. I don't know. Actually, Rahu is in Pisces in the 7th house, so it's going to be more relational for him. Not for this eclipse, but for other eclipses, the eclipses that come in Pisces and Virgo. So he may try to tighten the commitment. He may try to, financially finesse something. I don't know, because ruler of the 7th is in the 2nd. But there would be restrictions to that, okay? Coming from the 6th house and the 5th house. So he very likely doesn't want this divorce, not just financially, okay? He is destined right now to be more in relations, but perhaps not with Beyonce. Perhaps yes with Beyonce. I don't know, okay? I know that they were trying to make escape to Japan and stuff like that. Yes, I don't see it particularly going well. But you'd have to find an astrocartographer for that. At least it's not by the eclipses, okay? He will try to immediately get into relationship if Beyonce divorces him. That is important. So he may even have some potential partners on the line, and he might be extorting Beyonce with this. So it's not impossible for this situation. For Beyonce, a lot more. It's very likely for Beyonce to initiate a situation of divorce, but it's fated for him to change life partner even, and to definitely change source of income. And if he profits off of Beyonce, this is not going to be the case anytime soon, okay? She might be restricting that. She might be activating for this restriction. And this Uranus in his 9th house, this is why he's trying to think to move here, to move there, but you have to align with better persei, okay? Otherwise it backfires very malefically, as we've seen happen. I think a lot of people have been waiting for this discussion that Jaguar Wright brought, and yes, I believe her, of course. And also to remember the bigger picture, okay? Because for the system, he is just another Epstein figure, okay? If he's guilty, I believe Jaguar, but it's not what I believe. If he's guilty, he's just another Epstein. So, so they have Epsteins, okay? What we need to understand is also the structure in the system. And tend to all points of interference, okay, for the right to exit, for understanding the economy, for beginning to value yourself more, okay? If you think that you should not live in a house where it's supportive of your nervous system, where you can go outside to the yard, if you can go and travel, okay, for those things that balance your nervous system, make you live rich life experience, or that you must not be able to afford holding pets and so on, even if they're not for your protection, okay, then perhaps, or if you think it's somehow okay that people are working and homeless, if it somehow clicks for you, and you think it's okay, that the situation is reasonable, that such person can get to such situation and somehow supports your notion of freedom, then this is a big problem, okay? This is a big problem because you are yourself not allowing the models of well-being, forget abundance, well-being, to come into your life, and that puts a lot of people at risk, life risk, because you would not understand them because you still don't ask for yourself for enough to have a good life. So this is empowering those forces, whether you call it the devil or the Luciferians, or those forces that come to enslave you, basically. So this is what I have to say, okay, about this. I'm not going to take a look at like the composite and the synastry. I think it has been, a lot of been said about this relation, and in essence, we understand that Uranus Beta Persei are going to bring such kind and cases of divorces. So for everybody watching this, yes, I repeat, places to donate for charity. If you are in a situation like Beyonce, for example, Mama versus Mafia. Check more for Ronald Bernard, okay, for his initiations. I don't know what to tell you, if it's working, not working, okay. Those are the people that do something. And Mama versus Mafia is outside of the welfare that kidnaps children. Also, Ronald Bernard, I believe, would be outside. You need to check it further, because he himself was kidnapped by the welfare and was survived horrid things because of that. So that is two places that whether you need help or whether you need for to donate, okay, to allocate money, whether it's charity or just because you care about the cause. Imagination podcast, Anneke Lucas podcast, Anneke Lucas testimony. Those are great places where you can get yourself informed. More you might see on YouTube the type of videos that give you some music to release the spiritual warfare, to release nanotechnology bots, so stuff like that. Of these things, if you're targeted individual, that can be also supportive for you, and all of these resources are free, okay. So that is another place, yes, that you can turn to and get yourself informed. Yes, for the more monetary, then perhaps a certain talismans, the design to do that, to be invisible to the state. I know talisman by Christopher Warnock of the sun moon, okay, for the new moon in Cancer, I think it is. If you still have them, Algol, excellent for anything electricity related. Okay, so those type of things are another form of technology, okay, and to support that, astrology and astrological magic would be free, okay, because whenever you confine something in pyramid structure is very strong, but if you confine something in pyramid, it breeds what? Pedo rings. So standardization of a science, okay, and creating a lot of bombing you with misinformation so that you would want an authority to decide what is true, what is not true. This is how they do, and then they have pyramid, and we know pyramid is those secret societies, and we know that this is the pyramid that breeds pedo rings, that brings the very thing you're trying to get rid of. So to tend to the point of interference around standardization, so to make sure that people will not have to do patronage, that is ancestral structure for studies and getting degree, okay, for the structure of our campuses, academias, but also structures of how you study and how you get certified. This is where the trouble, this is where it's money times, this is where people fear competition. And I've seen great people. I've had a great aromatherapist teacher, fantastic teacher, but for some reason I was one of her rising students, and I don't even understand why, because she was so successful and I was so supporting her, and so she did not like that I shine and wanted to subdue for this shine. It became so funny that she teaches about the Rosalina oil, and 2 years later I read it and I was like, oh, this is a tree that likes to keep to its place. It's modest, it knows its place. And I'm like, what the fuck was that? That's not how you talk about the tree. That's not how I talk about the plant. It's supposed to heal people. Okay? And so it's not because she's a bad person. It's human, and in such positions, the fear is tremendous, because when you have pyramid structure, it's so the survivalist element is very, very strong. Whereas if you take a look at what we can offer and what the person has to bring to the table, you see what person has to bring to the table is always unique. The shine, all, if you, even if you do same things, let's say you do perfumes, okay, two people do perfumes, each person will have their own distinct scent, their own distinct personality. It's just so there's no fear of competition in that, okay, in that relation. And on the contrary, commercially, the more we have of something, usually the more people buy of it. Okay, if you go to a mall, you see all the shops close. People don't buy in one shop. They buy one shop maybe that they like, but they buy and they try something from here, they try something from here. All businesses make from this money, but it is standardization that creates that. And you say, okay, when is market overflown? Well, if you are smart, then you understand what the value that you can bring and the points of that excite you. Okay, if you attune to your own success, to your own excitement. And I recommend you to watch actually colleague that is also talking about gene keys. And yes, I would put it in the comments. And she talks about women, but it's not just for women. The women were coded to be poor, and they need to change this. Okay, so everything she said about women relevant also in these situations, because when you find something that you like doing, then you find the value is coming to you. And what we need is just to decongest for the cult structure, for the human sacrifice, okay, for those type of practices where people can, when they don't find their own authenticity, or when they don't have access to choice, or when they don't have access to save their lives, then they start practicing these really malefic things. So that would be, if you're watching this, okay, for just to keep this in mind and to not comply with attempts to create pyramids around structure that would put you up with pedo rings, that when you want to heal is basically good morning, you have been recruited to MK Ultra, which happens today, and unfortunately can happen in astrology as well. So I listen also to my critics to say, why you do astrology, why you do this, why you do that. Okay, I listen to essence of the critique, and I address this critique rather than dismiss all they have to say, but I also don't dismiss of what I came here to do. So thank you for watching, and this is going to be useful for the eclipse. So it's good to watch this episode again before the eclipse. The divorces that are coming up, we talk about relations, but we also talk about separations or divorces. They can be a bit more intricate because of this, and even life-threatening. Some of them might be. So those are resources that you can turn to. And if you know that the welfare kidnaps children, and there are videos where you can look both at maritime law and the laws cases study cases, both for lawyers that deal with, they call it narcissism, but it's just toxic relations, and how to win at court, and for child support. Okay, all these child support cases, okay, how to win at court, you can look for such videos. Would be appropriate to work with Speaker, would be appropriate. I still don't feel comfortable to release my own talismanic work, because the omens, I'm not sure, are exactly appropriate, and very intense, very heavy energy. So this is where those are the resources that can assist you, okay, at this time. And then to the bigger issues. Uranus is a generational planet. So your story is not just your story. It means other people are dealing with that too. It means that there are resources available for you to liberate your life and stay alive. Okay, So much success, much love, much grace, and I'll see you in next video. Bye-bye.